Obviously, we think in a situation like this that the teacher has to be removed from the classroom and put on temporary suspension while the investigation is pending, not to allow them to continue teaching and placing the same student or students in harm. Obviously, we think that when there are incidents that involve bias or discrimination, there has to be a streamlined investigative process created by the Department of Education. If a student had done what this teacher, who has a PhD and whose job it is to teach and help, our children grow, if a student had done what he had done, this incident would have resulted in punishment easily by the end of the day, and would not have taken a year and a half of investigative time and remained pending. Obviously, because these incidents have occurred over a large number of period and by multiple individuals at the school, we think it's appropriate that the Department of Education take a look at their bias and anti-discrimination trainings that they're giving and make sure that those staff members are redoing those trainings. And an incident we didn't also mention is that after the teacher called Doha a terrorist, a few months later, some other classmates actually began to engage in similar conduct. And so we think it's appropriate that those educational materials be given to students as well, so that they can learn from their misconduct, so they don't repeat that, the same incidents over and over again. Sheikh Yassin, I want to just give you the floor so you can talk about the video if you'd like before we go talk about Laurie Maslow.
Yeah, just briefly, for us, the prayer is something that we take very, very seriously, and we conduct that 5 times a day. And the call to the prayer, which we call the adhan, is part of that sacred act of worship that we conduct 5 times a day. So for us to see a video of the call of the adhan alongside with musical instruments, and to add to that people dancing, it's very insulting. We would, as Muslims, we would never do that to any other religion or belief or cult, and we expect the same. It's mutual respect, and especially when it comes to certain beliefs. So that's it's adhan for us is something very sacred, and we take it very seriously.
Yeah, no, I agree with you and everything you said there. And I think in that incident in particular, we don't want to, bring any bad intentions on anyone or evil thoughts. That incident seems that it would have benefited from, sensitivity trainings or, having some sort of guidance or consultation before deciding to use someone's religious practice as like a form of entertainment. And that was really unfortunate. And even when that issue, as you had stated it, Sheikh, was brought up to the school, they really kind of, didn't pay attention to it, didn't take it seriously. And that's why we see the video still up on their website.
So, Ahmed, if you don't mind, I think we could go to our assemblywoman for her reaction to what she thinks, and we'll go afterwards to also our co-religionist David Weprin from of the Jewish faith, and of course he can let us know what he thinks and about that as well. So we're going to Jennifer because she has come in a little bit earlier, and so we'll give her the priority first. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening to everybody. I'm so glad to be here. I stand with you always in the fight against Islamophobia worldwide. And I just want to give us all good news that we all may have seen. Yesterday, Joe Biden's first day as president, he repealed the unconstitutional Muslim ban executive order that Trump had put into place. So that was day one. So that gives me great hope. Regarding what we've just seen, and thank you, Ahmed, and his colleague for outlining that. and to Juhaid, my good friend, for putting together this amazing program. I think that that's very disturbing, because what is said to a young child that's discriminatory and speaks in religion in this way it's deeply problematic. I was thinking back to my own youth and how a comment like that would be deeply disturbing in a classroom, calling a young girl a terrorist based on nothing but the way she looks and her religion. I think it's deeply disturbing and should be taken seriously. And you told me about the trauma that girl must have experienced. I could imagine when she's handing in her assignments, she may be thinking, how will my teacher be grading me? Will there be bias? That itself can create great anxiety. So it's a matter of grave concern. I also was deeply disturbed by this video because, I mean, anybody can see that you're taking a very holy event, holy prayer, and just putting it on a stage, showing no understanding of what it is. And that can be deeply insulting. I thank you for sharing this. What do we do is the question. I mean, I think that we need to continue to make our voices heard. Okay, and I hope that as the first South Asian elected to the state assembly, you can always count on me for that. We need to make our voices heard all across the state on these issues. It's a matter of simple education. People need to know that this is not wrong, that this is not right, and it affects children in a detrimental manner. Okay, so we will let that be known loud and clear. Beyond that, you can also count on me to be an advocate to agencies like the Department of Education, letting them know our position on these issues. And beyond that, I'm eager to hear also the next two issues that we're going to speak about tonight and how we can act on them. Thank you for holding this. We're going to make it. We're going to eradicate Islamophobia once and for all. It's been 4 years of division, and that has now come to an end.
Thank you so much, Assemblywoman Jennifer Rajkumar. Assemblyman David Weber, would you? I know you did not get the first incident when Ahmed described one of the students being called a terrorist. So just wanted to let you know about that. And the second is, of course, what you saw is the call to prayer, the adhan, which we hold so sacred, and the student, the dancing in the background. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was, it required sensitivity training for everybody in the school, I think, because a lot of it is ignorance. Let me just give you an example, which was a motivating force, or one of the motivating forces behind my religious garb bill. And you all know about the religious garb bill, which would prohibit discrimination in all employment, public or private, for wearing religious garb or facial hair for religious reasons. And it came out of, and I think I've told this story before, and it kind of plays into the whole theme here of Islamophobia, but also just ignorance and hate in general, and how they sometimes get intertwined. Kevin Harrington Singh was an operator of the E-train. He was in the front of the train, the guy in the front who was very visible. When you go, when you're on the platform, you can see the guy in the front of the train, not a conductor, but a train motorman. And he used to wear, he's a convert to Sikhism. That's why his name is Kevin Harrington. He started out, he was born Irish Catholic, converted to Sikhism probably about 40 years ago, had a long beard and a turban, and he had been operating the E-train for many years. Then 9/11 came, and he was a hero during 9/11 because he actually, the E-train, for those of you that know, the subway, certainly in Queens, goes in and out of the World Trade Center. It goes right to the World Trade Center and goes back out of the World Trade Center. And when the towers were burning and people's lives were in danger, he risked his own life, Kevin Harrington Singh, by driving the train back and forth, picking people up, rescuing people that were running away from the World Trade Center with the smoke and the toxins and everything else. And he was a hero during 9/11. He saved lives by getting people away from danger. So what did the MTA do? Did they reward him? Did they give him an award? Did they give him a promotion? No, they removed him from the job he loved, operating the E-train. And why did they remove him from that job? Because hundreds of people had called the MTA to complain that a terrorist was driving the E-train. A terrorist. Why did they say a terrorist? Because he looked like Osama bin Laden with a beard and a turban, and they removed him from that job. And then there was the lawsuit. They went back and forth. But it was amazing that under New York state law, until about a year and a half ago, it was legal to discriminate against somebody like Kevin Harrington for wearing his religious garb or just what he feels is his religion, the turban and the long beard. He still had the MTA uniform. Everybody knew he worked for the MTA, but that it's almost similar in a sense that a lot of it may have been ignorance, but it really ended up being hate. And those same people that called, some of them were ignorant, other of them were just hateful people, and we have to really root out hate wherever it rears its ugly head, because one day it'll be one group, another day it'll be another group. And a lot of it has to be, we have to, and one of the great things about diversity in Queens and getting, opening things up. And by the way, because of my law, all of a sudden the NYPD, has now allowed Sikhs to wear full beards and turbans in order to be NYPD officers. And that helps in people understanding. If they see people, that are NYPD and they have a beard and a turban, they'll realize that, they're Sikhs. And during the debate for my religious garb bill, which I passed in the Assembly about 8 or 9 years in a row, but it didn't become law until it passed in the Senate when the Democrats took over and John Lew spearheaded it and got it through the Senate. But I can't tell you, there was a Republican in the Assembly during the debate that said to me publicly on the floor, and we could get the transcript. He said to me, let me get this straight, Mr. Weprin. I won't give you his name. You could probably look it up in the transcript. Does your bill mean that, if you're a police officer, you can wear whatever you want? I said, yes. He said, well, would that include a Muslim woman wearing a hijab? I said, absolutely. So he said, well, then I'm voting no. This is what he actually said on the floor of the Assembly. And that's why we needed a law, for that, exactly that reason, and it's just, I don't know if it's total ignorance or it's a combination of ignorance plus prejudice plus hate. It's really kind of a combination.
Assemblyman David Weprin, I just want to interject just a little bit.
Sure.
Thank you so much for your garb bill, but I'm going to ask a pointed question to you now regarding this. Can we escalate this besides having a training to maybe having, these folks behind the school held responsible, maybe suspended, maybe fired? Because I think if that does not happen, it just continues to happen at different schools and or even at the same school. If there are no repercussions.
I agree. There should be repercussions, and I think I would hope that it should be brought up to the chancellor and the school system, and there should be some consequences. Obviously, if it's a total ignorance and it's a question of, but there should be some accountability. And you'd think in today's day and age there'd be more knowledge and sensitivity as to this issue. We all know, and the Kevin Harrington Singh story, a lot of that came after 9/11, and a lot of the hate crimes against the Muslim community, against the Sikh community, happened after 9/11. Now it's many, many years after 9/11. We're talking, 19, almost 20 years after 9/11. And you think people would know better, things would change. And, the hate crimes that took place for so long after 9/11, obviously that's unforgivable. And we'd hope that, people should be prosecuted under the law. And, I've discussed this with Melinda Katz, and she's very sensitive to hate crimes and to Islamophobia and other, forms of discrimination. And I think she'd be willing to prosecute. Obviously, you got to, build a case that this person, had some knowledge of what they were doing. But I would like to see some accountability in the school system for incidents like that.
Yeah, so yeah, accountability is definitely needed. I want to just remind everyone that the incident involving the physics teacher and Doha being called terrorist is separate from the video. We don't want to conflate the two. The video is extremely sensitive. It does probably require sensitivity training, where the incident involving, in essence, administrative bullying requires, accountability and real punishment for the teacher there, which I think is, it seems everyone's on page on that front. I want to get to something that Simply Woman, Raj Kumar said, which is that, we kind of removed one bigot from the White House. Unfortunately, we have one bigot in Brooklyn, which is the other topic we want to discuss, which is Laurie Maslow, who's the district leader for the Sheepheads Bay area and is part of the Kings County Democratic County Committee, where, earlier this year, or it's probably in December at some point, but her social media messages resurfaced, showing a lot of anti-Asian statements and a lot of anti-Palestinian statements, which she has deleted now from social media. She has apologized for her anti-Asian statements, resigned some token position, and has pledged to do some sort of trainings, regarding sensitivity, and apologized that it was a poor choice of words. Now that's for the anti-Asian statements that she made. For her anti-Palestinian statements, where she called Palestinians in essence subhuman, and stated that, or implied, I should say, that Palestinian children should be eradicated off of the face of the earth, using a biblical reference that is used by white supremacists and white nationalists on the internet to suggest and imply that Palestinian children should, in essence, be killed and wiped off the face of the earth. And the reason I said that specific term is that is exactly what her social media post said, is that, in essence, she ends it off with these children should be wiped off the face of the earth, period. And, she has been silent on this issue. It's the county, the Kings County Democratic Committee took about a week to release a statement saying they condemned her, bigoted statements, and then they shut down the Simply Woman who runs the Kings County Democratic Committee, shut down, in essence, her Twitter page. The Kings County Democratic Committee restricted their Twitter page so that no one can comment or tag them. In essence, and the reason they said they did that was so that they could focus on the important issues. Of course, telling all of us that having a district leader who wants to see the genocide and the eradication of Palestinian children is not an important issue for them. I actually had a conversation, a private phone call with them, and they point blank told me that they would not ask Laurie Maslow to resign her position. And I think for all of us, it's important that our leaders, our political elected leaders, which the district leader is an elected official, they have to be held accountable. They have to have values. And if your value is the genocide of one people, we all have to stand up and say, you don't get to represent us. And we think this should have been a really simple issue for the Kings County Democrats to say, you know what, you got to resign. If there's no legal mechanism to force her resignation, I think we understand that. But you can still make your viewpoints known and say, you know what, if a member of ours holds genocidal views, if a member of ours is a white supremacist, if a member of ours is a clear-cut bigot, we're going to ask that member publicly. We're going to demand their resignation. And they haven't done that. And the scariest part, and this is also something that Assemblywoman Rajkumar mentioned, is that this person's a teacher with the Department of Education as well. Laurie Maslow is a teacher with the Department of Education, and she teaches in Brooklyn in the area that has a high concentration of Arabs, Muslims, Palestinians, and Asian Americans. And so imagine you're a Palestinian American student, and she is grading your exam. What you must be thinking when she thinks that you should be eradicated off the face of this earth. How is there any possibility that she's going to be objective? Is there any possibility that her bias, her hatred, her bigotry towards your kind is not going to impact how she treats you in the classroom, how she grades you, and kind of, just how she has demonized you and in essence, stripped you of your humanity. And so it's very sad. And we've contacted the mayor's office about this issue, and we haven't really heard back. We're talking 3 weeks on, and as if her comments never happened. And so it's very disturbing. I don't know if the Assemblywoman and Assembly Member Wepner have publicly commented on this and asked for, Ms. Maslow's resignation. If you haven't, please do so tonight. That's kind of the setup to the Maslow situation. I don't know if one of the assembly members wants to comment first on that, or Joheb, if you want to open it up.
Yeah, let's go to our Assemblyman David Wepner for this.
Okay.
I was not aware. I was not aware of that. The comment. Thank you for pointing it out. Where can I go to actually see the the language that she used?
Yeah. So she's deleted it all on her page, but what I can do is I will copy and paste one of the texts that let me see if I can paste it into the chat bar for folks to see. I'm gonna do it.
I think if the chat bar is difficult, you could just share the screen, and this way we could see it.
Sure. You know what? That might work. Okay. So let me go to Twitter. I gotta find it. I'll say this. I'm still surprised that people delete stuff off of Twitter, but it happens. Let me see. I gotta find her. I am Laurie.
While we wait for you to pull that up, I do want to go to our community for some more feedback on the three issues that we are discussing. And actually, not only our community, but it's also important to see what the feedback is from outside of the community as well, and what they think. We have here Dylan, who is a campaign manager for Badrun Khan. Dylan, would you want? Do you have any reaction to the videos you have seen of the adhan? What we talked about, a Muslim student being called a terrorist.
Sorry, if you'll give me a second. I didn't have my microphone set up. Hi, can everyone hear me?
Of course, we can hear you. There you go.
Okay, good. Well, so
Yeah, I think we lost him.
I think what bothered me the most is definitely the teacher's response. The teacher making fun of a student is bad. The students reflecting what the teacher said is horrible, but almost expected. Teachers are supposed to be the leaders of the school. They're supposed to be the ones teaching students how to treat one another. They're supposed to be sensitive. I know the so I don't know what the right answer is personally, but it's got to hurt. That's sort of my reaction from it was, and I'm not sure what the right thing to do is, but it's difficult. Sorry if that's very generic.
Well, what do you think about somebody taking somebody else's religious symbols and just we view it as making fun of us? Well, what do you?
I actually had a long conversation with Badrun about that because I think that's a failure to educate. I didn't. This will probably look very bad for me. I didn't at first understand why it was offensive. I'm Catholic. I'm Irish is my background, and religious music like Benedictine monks chanting was the example that I used, is not considered offensive. It's something I actually had a middle school project where we shot a video and I think I used the chant CD, which was something that came out probably 25 years ago, in the background. It's so it's a failure of people to understand that is offensive. I hope. I mean, everyone probably hopes that no one meant to hurt people, but the fact that it did is apparent and horrible. And the fact that it's still up 2 years later means that no one has bothered to protect the students that are affected by it, protect the community. I mean, the teachers that should have learned in that time why that's wrong. And the fact that they didn't is absolutely a failure on their part to lead. Because even if they went into that with the best of intentions and with pure ignorance, they can't be ignorant now. And that is why I think it's important that this is repeatedly brought to their attention, because it's still up, it's still available. And even if the students didn't mean to offend anyone, even if the teachers didn't mean to offend anyone, they need to know by now. And if they've received 3,000 letters, they absolutely can't miss it at this point. And I think it might almost be hard for people to see that these are two entirely separate issues, one with the physics teacher and one with the dance program, but at the same school at the same time means that there is no responsibility at the top level who is listening. Because even if it's one student saying, this is my religion, this is why this is a problem, that should have set off red alarm bells to every single administrator in the building. And the fact that the teacher continued to not make it better, and the fact that the dance program happened and that it's still on the website is just
thank you so much, Dylan,
hard.
for your comment. It's just I'd have to go to a few other folks. Just
please, I'll end. Yeah, I'm one of those people who just talks if left to my devices.
I see some of our viewers, participants are putting in those the Maslow comments over here in the comment section. Ahmed, is that right? And are you able to pull it up?
Yeah, I have it. So okay. I can pull it up.
You want to just share it just for...
Yeah, I'll share my screen. It's always a risk when you share screens, but I'll do it. Just give me a second. All right. So you guys can see the tweet here. Yes. So this is one of the tweets. She's responding to Rashida Tlaib, who's the Palestinian-American congresswoman out of Michigan. I guess Rashida said, stop dehumanizing the Palestinian people. And this was Laurie's response, easy answer. In essence, I'll stop dehumanizing them when they start acting like humans. right? Remember, district leader, school teacher at a public school in New York City. I don't know if that's something that we want from our teachers or from our district leaders. The other one that came up is this right here. I'm not going to read it just because it's a bit long, but in essence, this is where she uses this biblical reference, which, by the way, we looked this up in the Bible. This is not an accurate reference to the Bible, just if anybody is thinking about that. But in essence, she implies that what happened to these children in this Bible verse should be what happens to Palestinians as well, which is that they should be eradicated or removed, wiped out of the face of the earth, period. And she says, shoot or kill us, we respond. I mean, it's a very incendiary, inflammatory tweet at best, highly offensive, highly bigoted, and just has no place whatsoever in our political discourse. If we want a New York City that doesn't have hate, this can't be a district leader. In Brooklyn, one of the most diverse places in the city, and that has a huge Palestinian American community. And so, that those are the two comments we're kind of referring to. There are others, but these are the two that, have been highlighted and that really kind of show a clear-cut, bigoted viewpoint out of Miss Maslow.
Okay, now that everybody has some background, Assemblyman David, do you want to have any comments?
Assemblyman,
we cannot hear you. You have to unmute.
There you go. Yeah. Obviously, it's very, very offensive, and I'm not sure. It's not exactly as you described it about, genocidal views on Palestinians. It sounded like there was some back and forth, on it, but it certainly, is offensive. And I'm not clear of what was before, what was after, but certainly it's definitely offensive and definitely should not be tolerated, and should definitely demand an apology. I'm not sure it's not as black and white as you originally said it was, because it involved I guess a comment of a congresswoman and and this leader about a particular comment. So it's taken a little bit out of context, but certainly there's no room for any form of hate. And I'm still not sure I understand the reference on the Amalek. Did she actually say that Palestinian children are descendants of Amalek? That is a biblical reference, of people that wanted to kill Jews in the Bible, traditionally. So but I hear where you're coming from, and I hear the offensive-ness of it, and I hear that there should be some accountability and certainly demand a retraction, and I guess could be resignation, but it's not as clear cut as you originally said, in my opinion. But I wasn't there, for the comment itself and whether she repeated it or she explained what she meant. I'm not trying to defend her. Don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to get, clarification.
Well, Assemblymember, I mean, with all due respect, I think the only person that's going to give you clarification is going to be District Leader Laurie Maslow, since she wrote the tweet. She did not write that tweet in response to me, by the way, or anyone here. But for us, our position is the tweet speaks for itself. And if you look up that reference, it is a widely circulated reference amongst extremist white nationalist groups who hold, very anti-Palestinian views.
Thank you. Assemblyman Jennifer Rajkumar.
Yeah, I mean, I think back to Biden's speech yesterday where he said we've been engaging in uncivil war for 4 years. And you can see that a lot in our political language, just the incivility. And I think you can see that in the tweets, calling people not human, saying people should be wiped from the face of the earth. I mean, this is uncivil language if ever I heard it. I think that it's right to make a fact-based inquiry on everything. Okay, it's always innocent until proven guilty, and we have to be fact-based. Facts matter, right? That's for sure. But there's no question that this is not appropriate language, okay? And it's really harming our politics, and nobody should talk like that. Now we have to think together about how do we fight this? Everything that we've seen. I'm thinking that. I'm sitting here thinking, how do we address this issue? There are many ways we can do it. We can fight legally, right? And that is by like talking to our district attorneys and having them initiate inquiries, seeing what we can do legally. Definitely, they have been advocates on hate crimes. So we have to look at New York State human rights law, look at how this could fit under a legal framework. We can also look at it from leading with love, which I'd like to just put out there as a possibility. When I have faced discrimination in my life, I've dealt with it in different ways. And sometimes someone says something because they just are ignorant. And it's deeply hurtful and offensive. But they did it because they just didn't know for whatever reason. So sometimes the approach that I have personally taken is to educate, like literally give somebody a book, or just tell them, have an open and frank discussion and see what happens. Okay? And maybe that's a radical idea to kind of lead with love sometimes when you are hurt by something, but I think it is an important tool that we should use sometimes. But the thing is, there's a time to fight legally, and there's a time to use love. We have to use all different strategies. You have me 100% in this fight. And I think together we need to think at every step, what are we going to do? Is it time to advocate to the Department of Education? Is it time to file a lawsuit? Is it time to rally on the steps? Is it time to create educational material? They're all different tactics. And finally, I would just like to say that as we fight, we also have to keep our youth focused, because that Muslim girl in the classroom, like, she has a future. So she can't be, in the face of all this discrimination, she can't be distracted from that. And if she spends all of her time dealing on these issues, then she's not learning. Right. And it's important we address discrimination, but we all also have to keep focused here. I've had to keep focused myself, to get anything done. So these are all my different thoughts that I just put out there, and we're going to have to work together in this fight to find the best strategy. I also wanted to recognize one of my friends on the call. Harminder Singh Ahluwalia is here, my Punjabi brother. And if he's here and wants to say something, it would be great to hear from him. Are you here?
Yeah, I'm going to unmute him and ask him to speak.
Okay.
Hi, Jennifer. Thank you very much for calling out my name. And just to introduce myself to all my brothers and sisters who are here, I'm the one when Article 370 was revoked in India. I appealed on my Facebook page. If any Kashmiri family is feeling unsafe in any part of India, they can call me or go to nearest Gurdwara. Then I got a call from 32 Kashmiri women from Pune. They called me. They were frightened like anything because they were getting calls. So I managed their air travel from Pune to Kashmir. And in mid of the curfew on 10th of August 2019,
Did somebody mute him? Let me.
No, he was not muted. Maybe he muted himself. I'm not sure.
The mic
Oh,
needs
there
to
you
be
go.
unmuted.
So this is
I
me.
think he's
Yeah,
back
now it's
on.
okay.
Sorry, I got call in between. Sorry for that. So this is me. You can search about me, Harminder Singh Ahluwalia, on Google. 32 Kashmiri women. You can find all coverage over there. So I feel blessed. I got call from Makkah as well, from a Qazi. He said that we did dua for you in our namaz. That is a very blessing for me that I got lot of blessing from all over the Muslims, from all over the globe. And it's very, I this is
Thank you
very
so much.
important. And it is because we only have this one planet to live, and we should create a society where we can live with love and respect humanity for everyone. Thank you very much, Jennifer. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I want to go to Soma Saeed. She's also an attorney and running for City Council District 24 for her reaction on the three subjects. And we are, at 9:06 right now. We do want to go towards the closing of the program. Soma Saeed?
Give me 1 second. Hi. Good evening. When you talk about any kind of hate violence or Islamophobia, anti-Semitism or anything, it's heartbreaking for every person of that community when someone doesn't like you for who you are and they have issues with you. So without a doubt that what happened with Laurie Maslow, she hasn't really owned up. And the Brooklyn Democratic Party should definitely be doing more to make her accountable for her Twitter comments and the message that it sends to everybody in the Brooklyn community and New York City and all over the country. So, and what's heartbreaking about picking on young children is that it makes you feel invisible. It makes you feel you don't matter, like who you are. And this is something we all need to come together and fight against, regardless of what that issue is. In this case, she's a 16-year-old, and this is not acceptable. And I grew up through 9/11. I know what it means. When I went through airports, they would triple, fifth time check me. They would check my shoes, bags a few times. Even in 2016, when I was traveling to Cuba, I was the only one out of 20 in my group to be singled out because of my last name. And they were checking my hands to make sure that I had no biological weapons. So, it's really heartbreaking. And I think someone has their screen on. Okay, thank you. So what I'm trying to say is that it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable what's going on. We have to hold every form of violence, hate, bigotry accountable. And that's where we should work toward, building more dialogue, building more trust, creating more relationships, and getting to know each other's neighbor. It's always been the case that when you don't know someone, that you start not trusting them because you are afraid, you're suspicious, or you have misunderstanding. So interfaith events, getting together, having Department of Education, all of them should be accountable and have a solid statement. This should not be shuffled under the rug and let's say move on when it's only addressed halfway. It should be addressed fully, and that's the only way we can move forward. So thank you, Juhaib and Ahmed and everyone for holding this. It's a good start to have a discussion, but it should follow with action items. And I am
Absolutely.
really, it's good to see Assemblyman Rajkumar and Assemblyman David Wepper join tonight. This only means that we are working towards a solution. And when I get to City Council, I will be on top of all of these issues because it's important, because I lived through personally myself. And I don't want other children to go through this. And it leaves a trauma for everybody as you move forward your life. You have children, you think about them, what they might be going through. So we need to step up and be more active, speak against it, and do it in a way where it's meaningful and it will be followed by action. So thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brother Zuhaib, if I may
Yes.
just
Go ahead, please.
Yes, I would like to thank our representatives, Mr. David and Jennifer and Soma. You guys have delighted us with your inputs. Just that as we celebrate celebrated the inauguration of the new president, I guess yesterday he sent a very clear and loud message to everyone, and especially to his administration, that he wants them to be respectful towards other people. And if they don't show respect to any one of the staff or anybody else, he will fire them. So I think we are beginning a new era of healing this country, and Muslims should not be excluded from it. As long as there is no law that protects the Muslims, there will be always a systematic behavior of being anti-Muslims and Islamophobes. So I'm requesting to our assemblymen and representatives and those who are involved in the political life, is there any way that we can introduce a bill that will protect the Muslims from Islamophobes? Because we don't want things to get out of control. Today it's with the Muslims, tomorrow it's with the black people, and the next day with other group, and it keeps on going and going. As long as there is no law, I know that Jennifer, she advised us to go with a good heart and educate people, but trust me from experience, when people, they see that there are no consequences, they will not cease to attack you or to attack
I
your
just
belief.
want to let Jennifer also know our books are codified with love. If you go to the hadiths and the Quran, it all speaks about love. So that is all of us, and I think this is a last resort where it has gone over our heads. So this is why we're speaking now. I can mention personal stories as well, and just like Shoma said, I think we have faced discrimination to the highest of levels, and I think the government really has not stepped in and has not addressed the elephant in the room. And so Sheikh Yassin is asking for a sort of that remedy as well. I mean, we do our stuff on our part, but the government also has to do their share. And I thank David Weprin for addressing the religious garb bill, but I think this is a separate issue where we're called a terrorist. Even coming through the airport, the officer, when I came back from Hajj, my hat, he did not know what a hat was. And it dawned on me after so many questions that he is seeing thousands, if not millions, of people coming through the airport. He does not know what this real cap is, what it means, and what it symbolizes, and for him to keep asking questions again and again. So I was at that time an investigator for the city of New York. I used to investigate police and for the Civilian Complaint Review Board. And at that time, I told another officer, I feel like I was discriminated against. And as soon as I said that, the director came and asked me if I wanted to file charges. But now I just, I'm showing you the amount of love and understanding. I went towards that officer and wanted to see what he really meant, and he started apologizing. So I held my gun, you know, and so we understand love, but I think the government has to step up and do something about it because, just the other day, David, you were there at Queensborough President's Hall. We were addressing another issue, and it continues to happen again and again. The two imams, for example. And so we have been applying band-aids to the wounds, have not really applied any sort of real solutions to the problem of Islamophobia. And this is what Sheikh Yassin is asking for, and this is what we're asking for. Go ahead, Jennifer, please.
Well, by the way, I'd be interested if you wanted to draft legislation, and I know CARE has a whole legal team. Hate speech has consequences, and hate speech, is powerful as much as actual weapons being used. And I think it may be illegal under current law, and if it's not, there should be a way that it is illegal under current law. Just like I was shocked to know that the MTA could discriminate against Kevin Harrington Singh for wearing his turban and beard. I would think that certain hate speech is already illegal if it has consequences. But I'm not sure what we could do legislatively. It may be already illegal or should be illegal, and it's a question of enforcement or prosecution. There's a lot of crimes that are not prosecuted. Obviously, hate crimes are serious crimes, and speech has consequences, and words have consequences. In the case of tweets or posting, Facebook or any other way. So I'd be happy to look at drafting of legislation that you think is not covered now under existing law. I just want to say, in regard to the Muslim ban, I was very proud to be one of the first people that went to Kennedy Airport when it was first instituted by Trump to protest, stopping Muslim people as they were coming to Kennedy Airport. And I spoke out very strongly against that. And, I am very grateful to President Biden for making that one of his first acts, because that was really just not only discrimination, but really hate, and trying to basically legalize hate is what Trump was really trying to do. And, and I spoke out strongly. I don't want you to misinterpret, Ahmed, my comments I made about the factual context, because I do not approve of that or anything else. I just was trying to, be clear on the context, which I hadn't heard about it, and I'm just hearing about it tonight. So, but I
understand. Thank you. Go ahead.
It should be illegal, insightful speech. That's really what it is. It's insightful speech, which could, just like what Trump did, inciting, the mob to attack the Capitol. He should be prosecuted for that. And maybe Laurie Maslow can be prosecuted if there were consequences, that actually occurred from that. But I think it may be illegal under current law right now, but I think we have to have your lawyers, kind of research a little bit.
All right. Well, okay. Look, I think that I don't know what a draft legislation would look like. Let me just put that out to the community, whoever is listening. I think you're in very dangerous territory when you start criminalizing speech. Number one, it probably, in almost all instances, violates the First Amendment, because we do have freedom of speech in this country. Inciting,
you don't have the right to shout fire in a crowded theater. That's the legal case.
Inciting, it's a misinterpreted case, but inciting violence, like a riot is not protected speech. But going on Twitter, for example, and saying, I wish all of the blank would die, that's protected speech. That doesn't mean we have to accept it as a society, right? There is no constitutional right for Laurie
Ahmed, that is a
Maslow.
protected speech, that what he said.
Who's he?
uh, Maslow. You're saying
That
what
is,
he said is protected.
Maslow's a woman. Are you talking about someone else, or?
No, what you just quoted, you just said that it's a protected speech. Is that correct?
Yes, that is protected speech under the First Amendment, right? But having a constitutional right to free speech does not give you the privilege of being a elected official, right? We have to hold ourselves to a higher standard. The Constitution is a bare minimum. That's what we have to think about. We cannot, eradicate our safeguards of constitutional rights to deal with specific issues like this. So I don't know. I think there are a lot of laws on the book. We have to be very careful. CARE New York, not support criminal statutes just popping up left and right, unless they're very carefully analyzed and considered. What a draft legislation may look, we're willing to consider it if someone sends me a draft legislation, but we have to be careful. And I know that the Assemblywoman wanted to say something. I apologize for jumping the line.
Yes, and just before you go to Jennifer, I do want to interject. Under the freedom of speech and protection, protected speech, as you have seen in other parts of the world, such as the cartoons, how that has led to other incidences. And so, we need to have some sort of balance, I think, before there's a tit for tat sort of thing. And especially if this person is an elected official, I think we cannot hide under the cover of freedom of speech.
Well, look, all I'm saying is there are different ways to hold people accountable, and a criminal law is not always it, right? That's all I'm saying. Like you can't send a teacher to jail for calling a student a terrorist, right? But there are ways to deal with it. They don't always involve the district attorney.
Ahmed is showing love at the highest level. Thank you so much.
Right,
Jennifer, please.
Yes, thank you for this amazing forum. This is an incredible discussion. And I wanted to say that while I do advocate for having a good heart and love, which I know you have in abundance, Juhaib, and everyone on this call, I do think, though, that there is a place for tough action. And I have sued multinational corporations myself, okay, on behalf of thousands of workers, on behalf of people experiencing discrimination. I have done that work. It's been my life's work as a civil rights attorney. I have, as director of immigration for New York State, helped sue the Trump administration on a number of occasions. Okay, so I do believe that there is a definite place for tough action. And I think that we may have to implement it in some cases. That said, I'm also very inspired by Martin Luther King Day, which was just this week. And Martin Luther King said that I have a dream that one day the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will sit at the table of brotherhood together. It's not an easy thing to be loving towards people that are ignorant, but I think it's important. And I think some of the greatest heroes of our time have done that. It's hard to do, but I think that every day we should try to do that, while at the same time fighting with the legal tools that we have. These are just some of my thoughts. And I know that Assemblyman Weprin and I, who talk a lot and we share a border, will be able to work on different legislative tools. We should do something. I think especially at this moment in time, we should investigate ways we can promote civility. And I think that, we can call bill drafting Assemblyman and maybe explore different avenues.
Sure.
Brother Zohaib, I think one of the participants has been raising.
Yes, I do. I have meant to go to KM. Is that, if you don't mind?
Alaikum salam.
Alaikum salam.
Unmute yourself, please. There you go.
Sorry about that. Okay, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for this call and meeting. It's very important. And I want to welcome all the politicians that joined us. Thank you so much. As a mother and as a teacher who teaches in an Islamic school, I would like, if we can please don't care so much about being politically correct as much as worrying about not failing our children. Because when I hear us over here saying stuff like, it's not all black and white, we don't know what she meant, or I have to read the quote, yes, you're right, you have to know everything, what's going on, what did the lady mean or did not mean. However, we have to identify the problem. We must, be blunt about it. Yes, she did say it. Yes, she did mean it. She has to be held accountable. Because what message are we giving to our children? Are we telling them, oh, you know what, this person insulted you, but maybe they didn't mean it. So maybe this 16-year-old girl, she understood what it means to be insulted or to be discriminated against. But how about an 11-year-old or a 6-year-old? So we have to be their voices. And it breaks my heart when I see a lot of Muslim students, young students, coming from countries running from wars and coming over here to public schools and having teachers like this to treat them like this. And they don't have a voice. They don't have nobody to defend them. And I am so sorry to say, but please, let's not worry about our political status or our imam status or our let's worry about the future generation. Let's worry more about not failing these kids. I was blessed to study in both Muslim schools, Arabic schools, and American schools. Back home in Arab countries, they teach us that we must respect the teacher no matter what happens. You always, when your teacher talks to you, you have to lower your eye. Don't look in the eye of your teacher because that's disrespectful. Over here in America, we tell them, no, you must have eye contact. So when this little girl or this student, the teacher calls them names or makes fun of their hijab or tells them you're a terrorist, they're not only they're not going to know were they insulted or not, because we, the adults, are saying, oh, you know what, it's not fully white or fully black, or maybe she didn't mean it. No, when the priest in Florida wanted to burn the Quran, that priest knew exactly what the Quran is. When this teacher had a dance in Queens, New York, which is few miles away from the Twin Towers, she knew what Islam is. She knew what Adhan is. Let's not sugarcoat the real fact of hate. There are people who hate Muslims. Let's point them out. Let's say, you know what, I will not tolerate, I will not have you, the teacher who calls my daughter a terrorist, I will not have you teach my daughter. And not only, the problem is we are all failing humanity when we fail this little girl. Because today it's this Muslim girl. Tomorrow it could be somebody who looks like a Muslim, who's not a Muslim, but being treated bad just because she's looking. So they're profiling her as a Muslim. So the very important thing that let's call things with their right name. Let's not be afraid of calling things the right name.
Thank you so much, sister. I have another district leader, Mufazzal Hussain, who raised his hand. Go ahead, please. Mufazzal?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, assalamu alaikum, and hi everybody. So I just first of all, I wanted to share this personal experience from probably 16 years ago, after 18 years ago actually, after 9/11. My parents they had to move to Bangladesh because of the rising Islamophobia, and they didn't want us, my brother, my little sister, and me grow up in a country where we go to school and perhaps when we open our locker, dreadfully Osama bin Laden's picture pop up. They didn't want us to grow up in that. By going to Bangladesh, I was able to learn about Islam and about the religion. And I am thankful to my dad for that. Something I learned about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He would always deliver justice through peace, and he would deliver justice through forgiveness. And one of the stories that really strikes me to be amazing is that when when his uncle Hamza was in the battlefield, an opponent, she not only killed Hamza but also ripped his heart out, his lungs out, and ate his body parts basically, and chewed them up. And that Hamza was not only Muhammad's uncle but also his best friend. But after Muhammad came back to Mecca after 20 or 15 years, he forgave that enemy, and also provided her with assistance, provided her with education, provided her with all the necessities that are required to understand what Islam is about. It's about peace. It's about surrendering to God and God only. And I think while it's important to stand up against Islamophobia, against white supremacists, it's also important to educate. I personally do not believe in harsh punishment. I do tend to believe that American justice system is very harsh on various issues. I believe in justice through empathy. That's something I was taught ever since I was a kid, and I think that we can become a better society if we not only call out these wrong ways of these Islamophobic or even anti-Semitic or anti-Hindu nature. We also need to teach people, no matter how young they are, no matter how old they are, and no matter what background they come from, we need to treat them with kindness. So I think that an example should be set in our society, even if it's through government, so that we can diminish these hatred from the very roots of human psychology.
Thank you so much, District Leader Mufazzal Hussain. Ahmed, we can go to Ahmed and Sheikh Yassin. Sheikh Yassin, you will speak last, inshallah. Go towards the closing dua, unless Sheikh Musa Drame wants to do the closing dua. And Ahmed, do you have any additional comments? Any elected officials, any additional comments? Before we go to closing, we have been with each other for an hour and a half now, and I think it was a very healthy discussion. Um, as I said, and as Mufassal says, well, we are codified with love, but I think it's up to a certain point that it's not tolerable. So we are now venting, and I think this is where the government can come in and step in and address these issues that have been happening over and over and over again. It's not just these three incidences. We can trace it back many, with the burning of the Quran, those two North Carolina students, med students who were killed. Just I can name so many issues, even on a personal level, living in Astoria, go back home, or so many different. I mentioned the airport incidents. It's just every day it just continues to happen. We, of course, respond with love, but we have limitations as well as human beings. Ahmed?
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for joining us and giving us this opportunity to, as Johaib said, vent. And I also just want to tell everybody that we aren't taking steps in each of these incidents. And having this conversation is part of that process. And the best way that we can bring about the change is for all of us to be involved in the process. That means, doing action alerts, sending emails, making phone calls, protesting, even in the cold these days. So I thank all of you for participating, and know that while it's a long fight, it's one that we're going to continue doing together. And if we do it together, we're going to get out, on the right side of things. So thank you so much. Have a good night. And I appreciate all of you for coming here to listen to all of us.
Jennifer, anything?
I just want to say thank you, and I want to say that this was a really amazing, Ahmed and Juhaib. And you come to my office anytime and vent more. I'm here for you. first South Asian rep in the assembly, it's my job to stand up for us. So my office is your office. Thank you so much for this forum.
Thank you.
And I also want to just say, if it's okay, that this has been a great forum. The ideas and the issues that have come out of it. And again, hate speech has consequences, whether it be oral or written. You know, it's like the laws of libel and slander. We do have laws against libel and slander, and it's possible that Laurie Maslow statement could be, considered, libel, which is a written word as opposed to the spoken word. They do have consequences, and that's why we have laws against libel and slander. And this has been a very good thought-provoking consequences. But I think we all have to keep in mind, especially in a county like Queens, the most diverse county probably in the world, that hate speech against one group is really hate speech against all of us. Because one day it'll be the Muslim community, another day it'll be the Sikh community, another day it'll be the Jewish community or the Hindu community or any other community. And it's important that people of all goodwill speak out whenever we can, whenever we see hate speech, whether it be oral or written, rears its ugly head.
Thank you so much. If no one else has anything to say, I think we can go to the closing prayer. I do ask Sheikh Musa Drame to take us to the closing prayer, inshallah.
Inshallah, thank you, Imam. Before I do the closing prayer, I want to let you know that everything we've discussed, there are already bills in Congress. You can check S-2043 and HR 1566. S-2043 and HR 1566. I am part of the Muslim Jewish Advisory Council, and for the past 50 years, these are the issues that we have been meeting and discussing and working both in DC and in New York State and New York City. So the hate crime bill is now the law. So do more research on it, and you will be satisfied to know that every concern we have already been addressed, and perhaps maybe we can take it to a next level. So with that being said, I want to give the closing prayer, so we can say Amen. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب ربنا إنك جميع الناس ليوم لا ريب فيه إن الله لا يخلف الميعاد ربنا سلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار ربي اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين ربي اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين ربي اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you to all the elected officials. Thank you to the community leaders. And of course, thank you, Ahmed Mohammed, for bringing this to our attention. The Muslim Community Forum, I believe it has stepped up, and any issues that we face, we're going to bring it to your attention, and we're going to address it properly as much as possible. Thank you so much, Sheikh Yassin, for always taking the lead. Thank you. Camille, thank you so much. Everybody, thank you. Brother Parvez Ahmed, our attorney Mustafa, I see Sohel Rana here, Ms. Bauddin, Dylan, the USA Online. We got also coverage from the media as well. So, and this was live streamed on Facebook. So thank you, everybody. Thank you. And we had a whole diverse group of people. Thank you, Brother Arminder Singh on